that I had to come from a tech background. I had to know how to code to, operate in this space. That's, I think, the biggest misconception that has been busted for me. I'm Kreena and I work at Mars Snackic. I lead one of our data and analytics pillars. I'm very much focused around conversion. Our vision is to use data and analytics to decode shoppers, expand categories, and execute perfectly.
Do you want to give a little bit of background about how you found yourself here?
Yeah, so my background's actually in more of the demand space. So I've worked in the CPG industry for pretty much all of my career. And I've focused in roles in things like sales, category leadership, marketing. And it actually came by chance that I moved into data and AI. A leader that worked in my business, she basically shared with me a CV that somebody had put on her table. And they were looking for somebody in the UK who could essentially speak to the business around upcoming data and analytics projects that we wanted to enable in the UK business. And she shared the job description with me. And I initially looked at it and was like, I don't really understand what this role is, but somebody's asked me to do it. So I'm going to go and explore. That was in 2020 and I'm still here. So I think once you start learning about this space, you have this thirst to continue to keep learning. I didn't know anything coming into this industry in the sense of, I definitely had a level of trepidation because I was a bit like, oh, I don't know as much as my peers do within this space. So for me to get on that learning curve, I started doing an apprenticeship whilst I was at Mars. And so I studied and I did the Data Fellowship for 13 months whilst I was working. And what that did was give me some real hands-on experience of like coding and understanding how product development should work end to end. Talking a lot about UX, UI, because in my role, I wasn't necessarily hands-on, but I spoke to a lot of the associates who were more hands-on. And I wanted A, to be respected by them, that I understood what they were talking about, but B, I just had this curiosity of actually wanting to know what they were doing and how it integrated into my role and how it helped and, what that jigsaw puzzle looked like of how we all worked together. I cover category, shopper marketing and perfect store within a CPG industry versus in the tech industry, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so for me, much of my focus, particularly over the last year, has been how to get the business teams that we work with to understand how imperative data and analytics is for our growth within our organization. When those leaders within those areas are embedding tech as an enabler within their mission statements and within their vision and purpose, that's when I know that we've done it, because I'm like, they then don't see it as something separate to their day-to-day working. They see it as an enabler and something that is going to help them to accelerate that.
When you look ahead, do you think that the Gen AI revolution and this new focus on agents is already starting to have some effect within Mars? Or are you seeing people get excited to do that embedding of new technology into their business as well?
Yes, definitely. I think we're having a lot more conversations around agents and how you use agents in the best way for the organization. We're still very early on in that journey, and it's still very much about understanding what are those use cases and what's the best approach to take to those use cases. I don't think there's any doubt that everyone in our organization, from our senior leaders, particularly see the benefit of agentic AI and the way that agents are going to transform the way in which we work. I think the next step now is how do we implement it in the right way? And also how do we set the right foundations up so that we are able to build sustainable agents that become a part of the way people work versus it being something that they use at one moment in time and then it doesn't really continue to get used after that. I think agentic is the fun, sexy thing at the moment. And so I think it's really taking that step back to understand what is it that agentic actually enables us to do that other types of AI or other types of technology aren't enabling us to do.
Is there one way that these new technologies, whether that be machine learning, Gen AI, or even agentic AI, have actually had an impact on your day-to-day life or the way that you work?
So I write notes in every meeting, and most people know that I will be spending my time like sitting there writing notes when I'm talking to people. I will say the thing that's made the biggest difference is I don't have to do that anymore.
What's one belief you had about Gen AI or agentic AI that you've since changed your mind about?
That it's only for a few. So I think actually it's for everyone, and it's not just for work. There are so many ways that we're already using it in our personal lives as well. And so for me, that would be the bit that I was a bit like, oh, well, like only certain people will use Gen AI or agentic AI. And now I'm like, well, actually, like it's all around us.
What's a misconception maybe that you want to bust in that field?
I say probably the same misconception that I had before coming into this, that I had to come from a tech background. I had to know how to code, be like a SQL expert, because I've obviously come into it with no knowledge of a lot of that. And yes, I've over time learnt elements of it, but I'm definitely not an expert in that space. And so I would say Gen AI is more than just developing the technology. And there are so many different skill sets that you need as part of that team that makes what you do successful. And so there are probably skills that people have if they don't quite know whether they want to move into this industry or not, like empathy, collaboration, engaging stakeholders, communicating effectively, that are actually super beneficial for this industry and will get you very, very far.
More and more women are seeing themselves in the field, getting into the field and bringing those skills.
My experience of seeing women in data and AI has been how they enrich it versus it being a blocker for anything. And I see some great female leadership within our organization in the data and AI space.
In one sentence, what's your best piece of advice for the next generation of women in data and AI?
It would be keep learning. You'll never know everything, but keep that curiosity and keep looking outside of your world to get inspiration and to find other ways of looking at the problem that you're trying to solve for. I'm willing to take a risk on those that haven't got that experience, but they genuinely want to learn. And actually what they bring to the table is a viewpoint of how they see this world evolving and what their role could be within data and AI.